Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Buffalo Sports Center. I am Don, and today we are going to analyze the Bills' schedule for the upcoming 2024 season. Yes, as we all know, it did drop last night, Wednesday, May 15th, and there are some key takeaways to bring from it, and let's just get right into it, actually. Let's not waste any time. It's going to be a quick video anyways. So, as you can see here, this is the full Bills schedule, where they're home and away, which games are going to be primetime and what's not going to be. Let's first identify the primetime games, starting off with the Week 2 matchup against the Miami Dolphins in Miami. It'll be on Thursday Night Football, so big thing for the Bills is that they get to avoid that Miami heat that their fans so want to use against us. And, I mean, if you look at the corresponding matchup between these two teams, the Bills and Dolphins, you'll notice that it's only in Week 9. So the Bills and Dolphins, which is very unusual typically, usually they save one of these matchups for the end of the season, but the Dolphins do not get to play in Buffalo when it will be peak winter, so that's also a plus for them. I guess it sort of evens itself out with the Bills not facing incredible Miami Heat and the Dolphins not facing incredible Buffalo winters. So that game will be on Thursday Night Football. And then very interestingly, we will see if the Jaguars truly do own the Buffalo Bills that very next week on Monday Night Football. That'll be in the earlier ESPN slot. That'll be at 7:30 as part of ESPN's doubleheaders on Monday night early in the season. So the Bills host the Jaguars then. Gabe Davis returns to Buffalo. Mac Jones returns to Buffalo as well. And it's been a long time since the Jaguars did come to Buffalo. They were supposed to come last season, but the Bills instead went to London. And it has been a long time. I think 2019 was the last time these two teams faced in Buffalo. Bills winning that one 24-21. And then 3 straight weeks, actually, of night games for the Buffalo Bills, because in Week 4, the Bills go to Baltimore, and they will take on the Baltimore Ravens. That's going to be a huge matchup, and it really is interesting, too. And then the Jets, Week 6, also on Monday Night Football. It really does seem like the NFL is hedging and shorting Bills' stock a little bit, because by their indications, they believe that the Bills could be irrelevant past this little opening stretch of this gauntlet of matchups against the Dolphins, the Jaguars, the Ravens, the Texans, the Jets. They expect those matchups to kill the Buffalo Bills, and they don't expect them to be all that relevant going into the final stretch of the season. And you can see that with the sparse lack of primetime games that the Bills do have. Now, I will say, as we move towards the second half of the year, the Bills do get a lot more 425 games, namely the Week 11 game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and then the Week 15 game against the Detroit Lions, as well as a 425 slot against the Los Angeles Rams, which is basically normal time for the Rams as is, because that game will be in Los Angeles, so it'll be later for us, not really for them. And then you'll see that the Bills do take on the Patriots in 2 of their final 3 games, and for a team that could be riding that wild card playoff line, that could be huge for this team. But I also do want to highlight that, yes, the first 6 weeks of the schedule are very tough, but if the Bills can survive going 3-3, 4-2, hell, even 5-1 or 6-0, which I think is very, very low chances wise, their schedule does lighten up a whole lot. Titans are very beatable. The Seahawks are very beatable. The Dolphins, again, at home. The Dolphins do not win in Buffalo. That is a very winnable game. Same with that Colts game. Now, it does get difficult between the Chiefs and 49ers, those 2 games, but the Bills do have a late bye, which I love for them, especially when it's sandwiched in between games against 2 very tough opponents, both of them at home too, may I add. And that's one of the big problems too with the Bills schedule, at least at the beginning. Look how many of those games are going to be away. 4 of their opening 6 games are away. 5 of their opening 8 games are also away. I couldn't do math and count for a second, that's on me. But a lot of games away, which opens up a lot of home stretches, a nice little home stretch for the Bills over the second half of that season. Now, the trip from Los Angeles immediately back to Detroit, that's probably going to be a tough one, and that will factor in eventually when I do do my predictions, my season predictions with Cal, that we will take that into account. But there are a couple of things here as well that I also want to point out. That Arizona game in week 1 at home, don't expect that game to be a cakewalk. Cardinals are going to be very excited to play with Kyler Murray fully healthy again. Marvin Harrison Jr. just got drafted. That'll be a nice quarterback receiver duo for the Cardinals. Very exciting for them. And of course, I mentioned already that primetime stretch. But that Indianapolis game, I think, could be really underrated. It's going to only be a couple hours down the road. Not just a couple, way more than a couple. But Anthony Richardson, I think, is one of the most underrated prospects right now in the game. And I think that game could be a real trap card. As well as the fact that it's usually around week 6 to week 10 that the Bills typically have a midseason slump. It's happened many times already under Sean McDermott. Happened last year, although actually really the first half of that season was a huge midseason, huge slump. But even going back the season before where they lost against the Vikings, the Jets, those were really tough games for the Bills to comprehend. And it just seems like they kind of lose their steam a little bit. Then after their bye week, Sean McDermott and his team are always ready to go. They come out flying. They win out. They have a strong push into the postseason. And then they fall in the divisional round to the Kansas City Chiefs or Cincinnati Bengals. That's typically how it's gone. So don't discount the Colts this year. I think that could be a real trap card. Miami, I think, will give the Bills a run for the division. And despite all the pleas from the Jets fans, yes, I think the Jets are massively overrated by the NFL going into this season. They have the Jets do. They have 6 of their opening 11 games in prime time. That's crazy. It just did not prove anything. And yes, I know Aaron Rodgers was hurt the entirety of last season, but that doesn't change the fact that until we know how this offensive line is going to mesh, because additions don't always mean improvement, as well as Aaron Rodgers is 40, coming off a torn Achilles. How is he going to react to the rigors of the NFL again? He may be done after this year. So, I mean, maybe get his final season on prime time, as many eyeballs to watch it. I guess that's a storyline. But I think the Jets are massively overrated going into the season, although their new jerseys are very much not. So, folks, what do you think about the Bills' schedule? How do you think the Bills will do in terms of record, wins and losses? What's going to be tough? What's going to be the not-so-tough games? Anyways, I was Don. This is Buffalo SportsCenter. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next video. Bye-bye.